No, it's a little bit like last spin, and we will MatchDay 12. All of the social went down against Top Barcelona. And Barcelona will be buoyed by the news coming from Vegas. And that's a block up in SpainLeague. Little win today. Leave them just the ring behind. We're upgrading into the international break, but they go to a ground where they've not had too many good broad results. Late, I'm joined by the artist working on this SpanishFootball. It is Sid. Hello, Sid. Good evening. Say out Football Club Barcelona tends to be a game where we've gotten two sides so clear. The G's and an idea, the centre, and they want to invite us to play a part. So the QFT player to maybe get into the 13, and that's sort of elimination group is I'm not so it Barcelona to finish as a place in it, isn't it? Yeah, that's the best part of it. It's not just their two teams that are clear in their identity, but they're two teams that want the ball, that want to parry the Franks, the opposition, that don't want to just play for each other. We may see a game tonight then see if because actually one of the things I think Celta have done so well this season is to be ineligible to circumstances. But we may well see a game where the game is squeezed into a really tight strip in the middle of the pitch. We'll be here out of space behind his team, and hopefully what that means is a game of also chances and also goals. Oh, I'm sorry. Celta this season in Parliament is when even hurts his players. I like those 5 on 1% total to them this season in LaLiga has been slowing them down somewhat. There's 5 wins more than the bounds. They found some confidence in 3 different competitions to reading this and in Zagreb and in MatchReplay. Got similar and I think they may have in the problem. That was the next thing. She's there, but that's said. It's the perfect time. That's where I go to tonight. Again, well, first, I guess also with side one would be seen clearly. It's all those let's give a fixture and let's be which was instant minutes. Yeah, it was very unconvincing, and so much so actually if you listen to Hansi Flink's kind of analysis of this game before match in yesterday's press conference was talking about this is a Celta side that's better than us. And Vicious points to feel that in their feet, and his response is, I assume he means right now, Rothenbury actually aren't as good as them. And of course, in terms of the current fixtures and the current results, that is the case. I think there's a respect between the two managers. They can embrace their crystal way they want to play because of the approach to the game, because the enthusiasm for it. I don't think it's unimportant. There's significance of bringing young players through both clubs, and this has been the really big success of Claudio Pilatliff. The youngest coach in the first division came up on the youth system and brought lots of players with him. And I think that has really helped Celta to find an identity. The place they lost. And the period under Rafa Benitez, which for the team that was defensive, at least that suddenly went from the players, how it suddenly went on. And still, I mean, he had a new young manager, bringing also new young players in, being very dynamic, very determined to attack people. Look, in the most simple terms possible, being a lot of fun. Well, just to players and letting them start to my but to him that's one inside. And then that village comes to say an underground job, let them know and come and start up. He's not too sleepy. And then there's a good goal. He's since it's raining business time, so it's just starts out 10 pounds. I'm not with Nathan and Band 3. It makes it sound tell me that so small so that I'm not like it. Let me know double that times on side both side just and it's a huge chase in the team in midweek on these two players, but it's not just because that's European competition and this is LaLiga competition. You go from the Celta Vigo lineup throughout the season in LaLiga. And it's really hard to predict. Just going through the starting 11 earlier on today, there's only one player who started more than 8 of the games so far this season. Bear in mind we're in week 12, and of course that's the goalkeeper first. Of course, as for Football Club Barcelona, the goalkeeper may very well be his last 6 shoe starts. We got this shares, mate. And Garcia and Al Top makes his 150th start for Football Club Barcelona. Go back to see did make up the back for De Jong, Casado, and Sepnin in the middle. Lewandowski and Rashford up spread. So 2 changes made by them. Fun decided to embrace team there. And so Sophie Altin. Living on speak, what's he coming at? Yeah, and Koundé was really a forced change. I don't think that would have happened, but he got a bit of a knock in that game, and Antifix said they didn't want it. Risk him tonight, I think otherwise he would have started ahead of Eric Garcia, who's got a broken nose in midweek and will be playing tonight. We're still a bit minutes on before the game. That kicks off in memory of the former Celta Vigo manager Colin Addison. Barcelona in the youth system as it did to his sister in the Winners team there, and has been really, really fantastic. Celta, one of these seeing what Solomon telling you plays in his Celta squad. And he'll never into exploit that high defensive line. No, isn't at times I will mention that word high line, because they do play with very high line. Has been the focus of a lot of the analysis. I think curiously enough yesterday suggested that the line's too deep, not too high, and his argument being it's not so much about where the line is, it's about getting those other elements right, in particular pressing high enough to prevent the other side from releasing the passes into the space behind it. And I think both you and me are currently kind of hearing through the rain another suspiciously like Dani Olmo to play with us, doesn't he? Does, and he wasn't in the official starting lineup. Ryan Holtman, given to us by LaLiga. And there he is, Dani Olmo, and they'll double check this behind. Well, I would assume it'd be the third mid, but I think I can see third mid over the high like Sibits. Got Sabo, us to DME. Give them a speed cast a little bit. There's Rashford and Lewandowski there. There is actually down by it. Mingueza, Snoddy de Jong, Sudmi, and Dani Olmo. Saints looking 3-0. It's still doubled up Barcelona. Nice, take a free kick away. Way up step Mingueza. It's fresh. It should to repeat his feet. Some years ago. The option of shooting is there. I think it's more likely he'll try and provide an assist, but can shoot some resemblance, certainly. He just coast to the near post. It's not straight east for me. It's Kitty Young, Belieber. It's Pinot. The sponsor out for Lewandowski. An early test. It's here. I do. 3 minutes into the game, he's forced into the first set. I think seconds for anything to get Lewandowski back. He's taken his time over it since start. It's a chance saw Celta found the let's down his side. Holanis spun away side event. Had its handle but they must have clear over the 10th spot, but now the referee blows his whistle. The side son did work again. Just so he's waiting shit. Very easy to see by being right on the white line and the halfway line actually having a night to see it, but this is, I mean, this, you know, at times it does feel like we labour the point about the high line, but it's such a recurring theme. It's happening so often. You think about the game against Bruges in midweek for Barcelona, and it was the same chance each time. It was the same mechanics that leaded to the opportunities. It was the same way in which they were being caused. And I think Vic understands the mechanics of this far better than we do it. He insists more about the height of the line, is about dividing the pressure on the players, about drawing those lines close together so there is a space between them, and all those kind of elements. But it is happening so often that it's pretty striking from an outside position at least, for them not to be ultra inside, but not to, well, I suppose to have the nerve and the bravery saying, oh, we're going to continue to stand high, and we're going to continue to push the line rather than dropping off, perhaps protecting ourselves on the sit back to Chesney. It's right there, by the way, the two to the bottom of always going to be on his team, so far as Energy's tear after 5 minutes of the game. So otherwise going to be the keeper for 2. So influence that made a little bit knees. More likely to be in a company went to French to the yacht. I don't know, a company went to the front for him, sway him, not expected to be. What a tourist. It's he told me that what's up. Like you see she saw from Kev Sutherland and what that's sporting that lost. French rooms as you said earlier. That Nedwick signature against Bruges. They did the post-match spirit for and they stood there, and if they were all, was asked there, how he said, well, I think I broke my nose, and just at the moment he saw to one side, and he was in the form. Yeah, I think he had. It's shown up to be back on the field quite just a couple of days later as he got Sabo on the bench. Ryan Young out wide towards Balde. Olmo. I mean, Young gets like the defense. It's about that. Set, interesting thought. I mean, gets out. That's one issue very thought about Football Club Barcelona and Leon. So I'm just I mean, understand the key speed in. Understand him going to the shot. It will be a corner. And I think that praise you to shoot one of your likely to quite not to have just dropped to the minute. One of the things that makes him such a dangerous player is his ability to see where the ball's going to drop to and right. Maybe he's a mess. But he's academic player than some Barca players. But he has that ability to see where the ball's going to drop when the game's a little bit, to make the most of it, to take advantage, to arrive at empty area at the right side. I think that's a key harvest there. The energy and the awareness, the third intuition he's got. 3 goals this season and not even another 3 in the Champions League. And Lola, the red 3 should use something here. Wearing costumes making a handball gesture, I think. And suddenly something has been said to her for her. Unless he's going to go down and look, it looks like he will. What's the here? Watching as handball. Still last turn, that's Michael Alonso. And the veins like gesture as well. And it's one of those where Jan is out wide and she's saying, well, if he's going to have a move, it generally means that someone in the border thinks it could be. Yeah. And that doesn't necessarily mean the referee on the pitch is down to agree. See, I think there's two reasons why this to McGinn's handball. One is, I think, the hand. One is a long way out from the body. It's just about out from the body. And the other response is that it's a shot man and dog. And turned away. That arm is outstretched. It's got the shot at 17, and that's off. It's a penalty for Barcelona. Whistle is some plates from the idrottsstängsel that the almost wanted to Barcelona players out there, Mark Salem, so he's Lewandowski in a chance to find Barca into another. Lewandowski's first start since coming back from injury. Emil gets a hand onto it, but just enough power. Storm of Lewandowski. So they take the lead. Wonder than rain. It's his 10th goal of this season. And an unfortunate start to Sunday. For Barcelona's point of view, if you're a team coming into den, Dallas and her team by into den. Not sure about personnel return to starting a game of a player like Robert Lewandowski who's been out injured. They've been concerned about that defensive line. You've already been called on, albeit it was offside, as high as you could argue. They have been called, but you feel like your vulnerability is being shown. This is really good news to set who's ever, doesn't it? We're involved in one way or another. Not easy from Lewandowski. It's very late side. It's still listening rather. So just think once a lot. Some goals to them. Need them that they were heading into this game in, but still will be chances to all stand up. I think as well the pressure that's been around recent results. Probably been a little bit of an eye-opener for him. I don't doubt for a minute that Europe and Barcelona was pressure, but I think she would be having justified. Sans Marcus Rashford, his mistakes in the defence, and that makes the save. The will still arrive inside the box. Several players came down out of it. Has also slipped. So that survives. Someone come down the other end. One side, yes, something. They've bred to mill side track. It's going to be the other one. Stayed from London to finish, but he does. But that equalises itself. You've got to hang that. And 4-3 for his first time. And it's a hectic start to a game that we anticipated was going to be effective, with a lot of things happening. And 11 minutes in, it's 1-1, and it's everything that you could expect and imagine from the 30th second through Barcelona. It's really been stuck. It's going to be a lot of fun, doesn't it? And also, obviously, the penalties the way we necessarily anticipated, but this is exactly the kind of goal that we've seen Barcelona could see, and the kind of chance we've seen them give up over and over again. And had in the ball and ceremony book at the shots, and again in the replay, he's to run from the it starts with this mismatch that in trace. He should score, but look at the timing of the run from the position. Just done enough. I think it's that Maddox Maladay on this side. I know I'm with you, by the way. I thought he'd missed it out. I thought that the ultimate touch was really heavy or false, a long way into the right. He then seemed to slow it down as if he wasn't entirely sure what to do with it. But then, to his enormous credit, he ended up taking it really, really well. Just wonder if Szczesny might still. Well, he could have done it a little bit better as Kubasi and Eric Garcia comes sliding across. Centre, that's on the attack here. The shot sash is just over the crossbar. Enough time to let what's happened digest in this game. There's mistakes. Class backside, I mean. Season's Kubasi, and Alpha. And stage will dive, shuts over the top spot. It's looking like it's going to throw straight out. We don't even have time to write down the minutes, the charts, sorry. And there's another one coming. Bit. So does that. Someone shot. First thing we saw in that goal, and something that out into that, and that's his took about, which is he said, pass on the catch, not good more side. In that first line, was way up it, timing right of the second line. It says the player that already surpassed standing Stoke, who's arrived at some behind, who's most likely to avoid triggering the offsides up. It's actually very close to doing so, but got it right. What statistics show you as well that Barcelona this year they're succeeding past a big offside, or it's 30% less than last year at this stage. And that's not because they're trying any of this. It is because other teams have worked out some mechanics. It's because Barcelona's own mechanics aren't as good. But I think a lot of it is about the press put in place by the front players. But I personally am a believer in the fact how I think they agree to miss Alfidis in that one here as well. So I think he's the one that leaves that press. But talking about a winger, in theory that shouldn't be the key to your defensive frailties, but I think it's mastered. But the whole week he'd be playing against top Barcelona. What are you doing? It's just now. It's timing. He's on ceiling. What they're going to assist coming if he does the decoy point. You won't expect him to be the player. It's but sorry, it seems perfectly crafted. That's the training round boy. Yeah, I doubt it fit out in this instance. And I think that phrase perfectly crafted is an important one to bear in mind when we talk about Barcelona's highlight. It's the way they did it last year. Yes, it was risky. Yes, the eye test to us was, my goodness, what are they doing? But they got it right so often, you couldn't help but say, actually, you know what, this is so well worded, it's so well timed, the mechanics are so well done, it's been worded. I remember there being a question asked of Hansi Flick, I think after the Clasico, when they called Brown did offside 12 times. Someone that yes, that sounds lovely, yes, for us, in behind he was offside, they also, you see, I do think we need to be careful, something like when we judge Barcelona, because we talk about that offside chance, based on what we see. So for example, we see this as a race. They would argue, no, that's our success. That's us getting the timing right, it's putting the pressure on the passer, it's leaving the forward outside. And so last year after that, when they caught Brown did offside 12 times, that's not chance. That's doing it brilliantly. Now, Hirsch himself, this is something you couldn't have done without VAR. Well, that's fair. Så att det blåts up the gun. And Smithy's he said blocks hoping that what he was going to take a little bit longer to deliver. That mean bizarre, wasn't it? It eventually was fucking forced to spin. Frankie D.O.B. Well, take this, yes. John said, no, this is sure she has leaving some office, Sophie. Well, get used to go. This would be surprising how it's going in. I just hope they carry on like this. You're about 15 minutes, and I would love to think we get 9-0 this. Setups or not. Oh, this model, this concept, free the AI peoples. Well, the thing is, I mean, you could still catch me offside, but you're trusting the linesman were, I could say, as efficient as you are. And with VAR, I suppose, in a way you can trust that more. Because if you get it right, you trust it seems to be right. And obviously, then it poses questions about the training ground mechanics of it in terms of, do you have someone checking in after checking you got it right? Do you have your own sort of pseudo VAR system to find out if your adjustments are in exactly the right place? Almost play this and not sound. Not enough Udowski. Famously, of course, Enrico Sacchi, the massive butters that managed the first made the idea of a high press, of an offside trap. You know, he famously would train with his back four tied together by Brad to ensure they were in a line together. Sorry for the ball back, and it's interesting to see these shots the topic in the highlight. I don't think what made you keep criticising the fan and they avoid highline. They continue to dominate, but it's the fact maybe it's almost Harvey the only option sometimes has the highlight and it's not of Champions League, maybe you need to resort to something else. The context, the money in the game, and I think that sort of sounds most critical of the last chess. I think actually most Barcelona fans do quite enjoyed it and considered what incredibly successful season it was. But certainly people like us, watching from the outside, journalists and critics were talking about it, and I think that's right. And yeah, this year I'm afraid it's in escape. It's called in the Bronx and they are struggling, and so whether the model can still be the right one, but if you're not playing the way you want to, and you ask that question, well, should you do something else for the time being at least? This something to Rashford is anticipating the overlapping hands, sounds a bandit, and there's another offside. Snarita went up in the build-up. A little bit stunned after that, so a quick response from Marceda. It's from a little bit tiny comes to so far. The other element has been so impressive about Celta recently. Yusuf's something thought sounds essentially young, but this much there. Certain noise misplaced. The reader better than that says that's known really well. Bringing the two ends up to one of them not done yet, but bringing the two ends closer to the pitch and creating a sense of identity and momentum. And it's one of the most enjoyable places to spend more than 1 hour in Spain, which really and truly 4 or 5 years ago probably wasn't the case. And I think so. So any of its clubs want to get free in some uses. Management hot up his run. Since there's a sleeve sometimes success. He gets here. It's maybe not quite as extreme as we said, but you can see our screen how a really good example on how the game is squeezed into, what would you call that, maybe 30 metres. So streets with really quite big spaces either side of it. That up alone, put in claims a little bit as the ebb and the flow of the game changes. But broadly speaking, these are teams that want to deny space inside. And then maybe obviously as a result of that, allow space beyond. Minimal. It's great. Even in so far in this town. That's here. And to 7 meaning. Thumbs Bill from the backs. What's he? Yeah. Man, to bot this of space. One more. Dosby makes well into page French sort of accelerates. English, I mean, that from Dosby. With De Jong. Yes, yeah. So side to side, into side to side these center things. I think the Woods is because the fans felt that it might have been offside when it was sleep there. Just strength to that's the challenge and John's step. It didn't give away. It's thought it's more strange. It's the last. Dancer. Had a new spell inside the Fidas. I think they'll want that, not just to try and create chances, but to take some of the edge out of the game to impose another bit of control. Also, yep, see ya. Take on my person. Oh, you saw him? What did I? He blocked his pass. Samuel said he has the S, but don't you? Center. So see, well in the defensive element of the game. Number the handball. Respect. That boy, I'm done it. Hill, just thinking that's the face of a relief man, and any type of gesture to remove any doubt whatsoever that he recognised that he'd had a little bit fortunate. Just dominancies for him and in LaLiga, despite not a huge amount of minutes he played. I think 385 more tonight. Still think that Lewandowski is an important part of this sort, and I think it's legitimate to have doubts about him. Certainly, like the periods last season when he felt like the pace wasn't there in his game. You would have performances from Ferran Torres when he saw things that Robin Lewandowski maybe doesn't give you, but still think the capacity to hold the game up, the ability to direct defenders with him into a deep position, and allow the two white men to go beyond him is really, really important. And of course, just that ability to finish. Quality's finishing for really not very much. The BigMatch came with that, for example. But that's an example of a forward who come and receive, and it's not just that he comes to receive. It's the way he does that. At least one of the central defenders, sometimes two of them, would usually go with him. If he can then drop it off, and it will go quickly to the two white men, and that's often the origin point, the start point of releasing white. And it's space behind the other part with that, of course, is that the man that was usually released the space behind last year was Rafinha, who's also unavailable. Rafinha and Bellery, to goalkeepers, rung at Ter Stegen, and available soon, Sima Kabas has a lot of talent sideline. And they're pressing on there, that had tried last year. We'll be back after he has to break. But then, let's see what is Mr. Tintimans of this, Daniel Arnold. Injuries have slowed him down, yeah. Felt like an opportunity, possibly even an obligation, I think. I think that was creeping into the analyses of him that weren't there at the start, but I'll see it start to happen towards the back end of Barcelona. And this season, definitely, obviously, a big part of that is about injury. Whatever the intensity to muscle injuries, missed a lot of games in the last 6-7 years. And I think there is always that concern, and sometimes part of the concern, stay quite much also, and it did beat Honey Spice and me. It's a brilliant challenge by Lace Modi. Rashford strikes the opponent, Lewandowski with the follower. Somehow, ball hasn't ended up in the back of the net. Modi that Henderson is strong defending. Mindina comes away. It's a team that's up to in. Play, as he hurt himself, was interacting on what Whitten did. Barca actually scored 3 times there. Given his all-star record lately, you'd expect Serming to score this low and absolutely brilliant club. That's incredibly unlucky against Hudson. And I think that's a brilliant save. I think that he maybe gets the ball when he's done. That's what he's really good at that. Love that's fantastic. Upside as well, great camera look. That's a giddy fly across the street like that. I think he might get this shot in the cradle, which is why he's twice winded big stunts. The attempt from Rashford was a strange one as well, wasn't it? It didn't seem like he seemed to be the natural place to aim. He ends much as everything else. And some others in the same instance of City shots, Marijuana was just looked at the ball on and see how sticks. It himself up. So, some characteristic is state from him of that. Let's have slurry of some opportunities for Barcelona. I'm very interested in the statistic. It was 6 times the season, it was 7 now, and they've drawn 1-1, so 7. And last week they scored in the 90s something. Wow, the last 2 wins have been in the 90th, the 91st, and the 87th. there is a point how it's already 1-1 at least. I thought this go. I suspect this by starts Meslos. Good. The 7 sack. Oh, that is what it is well said. I would be too, but maybe that's not 10 sack. I'm sorry. Do it. It's not slice. I mean, guess I feel somewhere in this intercepted by Van there. It's still alive. Oh no. I mean, to know you more. Just young. Like that. Saw Lewandowski. I mean, Stellantis stepping down. Space put by it, Celta. It's not punished. It's dead by that simple. Spawn it into the channel. It's found. I enjoyed that. Support behind him. And all his teammates says that is sick there. They tenderly had no one to do to me. That is exhausted now. Fondling the town where he doesn't rise. He's so in space, such a reader. Music series so and also it's it kind of random it's kind of so men's beats up in his watch. You can wear all that. So yep, see it. And it's tossing it out, sorry. So JCS. Once again, the Spanish FC side. The India set. That's the ball into space. I think this is touch that in down. It's a player this time. He just such a good pass and that's nothing but the exception of Iago Aspas who's on the bench. So I don't think there's anyone else in the Celta team that plays that kind of clever language pass through those gaps. This break from the end is affects me as something that's dealt maybe a little bit too much bounce in it if it harder than but I think that's just good for here just not to see that pass and execute it. The rating as well. Brace of assist. Unlimited. I'm sure they'll say as some say 11 goals in his career against Barcelona. Beyond. Falsman. In this handball-like motion helps pass again from side to side. Young. Shopped on Lewandowski. Up post. It's from Gaveda. So another shot. Steal pass it to brief side for this Spurs. UFC. But we think the amount of times they've been the team picking up those slightly short clearances, they've been putting the pressure on and whenever they a little bit high. Not quite enough to complete to protect that fall, but that bar wouldn't pull back. The close to the Celta area is largely working pretty well side Vam. What else? I mean, I think my team is headed Garcia forward and sway from the edge, smarty that. Determined, it's on front, that's it, he's forced the corner. He's been so good this season, this year, and I think surprisingly so as well, playing in a lot of positions across the bat. So, I think it's been great, really useful. He probably understands the movement of the line, the time of the line a little bit better than some of the others, and This is it hard to see so far. I mean, third. And told in from De Jong. Alphonse to Danny Olmar and the fleet. It was amazing. It's Celta Vigo. That's it, as he said earlier. He seems to be in the right place at the right time. Lots of the time. Marked inside the area. And actually haven't got himself into that position. He may well fail to, and they could have done a bit better with the like. Perhaps it made with a little bit of slice. The other thing I sometimes is deeply heat ball, so we had a bit more time. He realised, had he realised that maybe we were taking the body on more about trying to place it in the net than about times than hard. And seeing that from an offside position. Be interesting to see how much this game he plays. Vic was saying that with that we call it Ignis of Boots as far as I said, as if it's all crawl, you just name it as summer. Set mistake, this gets me better. Not said there yet, but that is improving. And it's an injury that needs management rather than fixing. So it's one of those where you're never completely sure if you're over it. Then it's about preparation, it's about protection. And that night very high, but it's timed right this time. Speaking of that injury as well, is I say I sussed it before, and it's just so you're so limited. You can't sprint, you can't accelerate. Someone might admit you can see 50 times more acceleration than I'd ever had. Here, Nico Williams is another player you're suffering from it, and it just means up the window. Not speaking on the other player, which is very much so. They're all the bags out there. Losing RBL, he's saying to him, you just pass it back. Who's it pass? And he was right. It's just purposes we're on. I did. It's a big part of what makes you the player that you are, a big part of your identity. And then of course, then the doubts creep into everything to do it. As he said, I think I said that was a great indication of that. That video in the class, but this is to be you keep asking about it. And actually, but then you say that to me. Sure, the meeting knows that, but it cut then that starts to eat it. I mean, what do I do? If I take to hold now because it's telling me I'm not, and otherwise it's now like, no, I'm not doing it. And so even the pass, I might make well that it's so seen by the defenders. Ends up playing with on your mind as well as there's obviously the physical limitations. It's the down. Chesnet's very long way to end it clear. That's another element of this moment of night is that you need the goal to meet prepared to kind of sweep into those spaces behind. And sometimes still I should perhaps doesn't do that as much as you might. Look at that. Yeah, we say all this. It's always worth doing it into the context of this team that whatever domestic competition there is last year playing this way. And so there's a bigger bit. It's always I always find myself descending thing because this doesn't we as commentators, analysts, and journalists, and sometimes take it the easy route picking up on this. This team was actually brilliant during my last year. Apparently, sort of said Champions League success. There's a lot of attempts. Admitting we were perfect season. Admittedly, it is true that in that semi-final, perhaps just shove off the blame on this. But I do think that then sometimes it leads you as well, because if you stop the tape at any point at the derby, you can probably see a reason why it happened, and that doesn't take into the context of the whole game when they the home game went the way it did. Because of those risks that you say that bring with them the possibility that at some point that would help go wrong. Goblet rate final as an example. And they score the winning goal, but Kunde stands out of defence, very, very high, wins the ball back, scores the goal. A team that's sitting and waiting, and the centre probably doesn't even take that step forward. Hey, Dempsey, Danny on more. What a see. Thought about it, didn't think I would fill it out there. Now, top. Mudnet. From direct light or more. Points behind. Plays it back to Malta. And a bit by now 9, but this time it's squeezed right up onto the edge of the its name's the Celta Vigo 0. Rashford. Shutting style, Stephanie Mirza. This is what's a taste, yes. And there's Eddie Garcia. Who's doing a lot all this season. Soon Barca. And second off last season. So I don't think it surprised a lot of us, to be perfectly honest with you. Glad that Manchester City weren't sure was down to make it on the as I go to it was going to have a really high level of meat for it. Even in the first part, I mean, it's like Mac and Barca. I didn't work so sure. And actually, but now you look at the Barcelona team and think if everybody spits, maybe he doesn't start. But frankly, in the performance of the button, his team needs to start all the time in the bad form. So you can then choose whether it's of course, centre back, but Sunday deserves to start. Closey. What? Ball from Rashford and Lewandowski. Well, it sounds the only gap. The title to have so the legs fall for Ronaldo. It's team flat for age. Nothing yet. That look could do about that boy. So he does skip it. He does what he's meant to do, just score goals. It's got a brace, and there's 2-1 Barca. That's another assist to Rashford. Rashford had numerically at least an absolutely phenomenal impact. So by the season, he played more minutes there. No one expected. He was over 1,000 minutes to full tonight. A goal or an assist every 82 minutes. That obviously will come down a little bit on average now with this. It's true there are some doubts about him in terms of like the overall structure of the team and maybe some of the defensive support for Alejandro Bandu. But his ability to make things happen for Barca has been genuinely, I think, it's surprised a lot of people. It's fantastic. Absolute brand. And then it's the intelligence of Sibgels as well to get in behind stuff out and time this fun perfectly. Also, a little fortunate with the finish, but again, from that kind of distance, really, truly, it's just about getting it on target, isn't it? That's like celebrates. You need to understand why it's not been an easy game for them. Can be holding on to their lead for a little bit longer this time. And he on. Right, so that's a big assist this season for Rashford in LaLiga. He's got a couple in the Champions League as well. One. Since Lewandowski again. Which I think means that the first has got more assists than MVP. Sits up for Blues in these. Yeah. That was a fully played up member of the News Mayor fan club, but I just think he's fantastic and partly, of course, because doing it team then he's kind of counter-cultural. Which the way they play is it's really, really impressive. Which probably is diminishes chance to get in the Spanish side. How did you think that is not side the point you called them? That's it, Spain out line on because it's a different position to break into, but you look at the absolutely missing in us. And Swiveries, I like me to kind of. Starfelds. Made out. Do what I expect to take my myself. Still, it's too much of them. See that last get in the option like it's just the first time ball in behind the defence. Wasn't too happy with Newton Song Sarangel for that. And of course that's also part of his that took it out to wait through the high line and being forced to do things ever faster and the faster and faster you do it, because the harder it is for it to be done with any real precision. Up a touchdown. We've seen both English lead the press. That's up turn. Just do my several. Come on, there's no point in me doing it on my own. This has got to be coordinated or it simply won't work. Taking on that role in the outside, so Diego Asmas was always so thoughtful towards his teammates. Iman. Don't have step focus, decides to play the ball to let it go. See ya. This your UFC. It's 5 technical. That time challenge is new. The gap behind him, which they could have exploited. Was a rusty force to play. This progresses there. Some UFC, so the chance more the possibility was there. And he shouldn't use the ball and get and he was where to be, when to tie his stuns, and he's done it to plot team and help his team build up from the back there. When it was undetected. This is sometimes another goal, and the other shot is 35 battle. I'm telling you 1-1. This is going to be 1-1. Could still be a draw. At this point, you'd be pretty much in a phenomenal draw, wouldn't you? Well, certainly of those fixtures in recent issues had so many goals in them. Maybe another one to chop down to the future. That's only one. It's nice in their last 10 of visits. So plays a 1-2. Shoved into the ton, winding gears up. Oh no. Anyway. It's a numbered fight. Still, so that descenders. Off is not quite after live in the back of that also there, but for a moment as he self after knows it, the ultimate freshen of excitement of the crowd states but I do. It's been doing the dive. Let's get the signs as we see in that side where here is that you see some other enjoying standard quality of the football. And also yes, I thought it was just I this 6 minutes at a time. Is that all? So, 16, maybe 20. Must impress some lights. I just about 6 minutes. It doesn't feel like it's been the first time for already significant stop or twos. Foot. I'm a semi-laughing while I might even present that. And I wasn't. Good decision to the penalty. Good goals. Set the minute going all days, wasn't it? Half a minute. But it's the way they feel like it's doing it sometimes sells, isn't it? I mean, on time. Some tough shorts. You get to you. I feel that idea of attacking the half entire self-defense actually is this element truth in that, and I think that every time he gets the ball, there seems to be at least a couple in front of him. Rashford has out there for saying in the build-ups of the game that this wasn't about covering a team in medium mile backs. He was someone that we probably could mark individually, and if you need to structure that, I guess each part you can allow yourself to add an extra man to him if you're confident that the fullback is going to overlap him. Now, Eric Garcia does many things, but maybe overlapping Lamine Yamal isn't one of them. It's not to say he won't ever do it, but it's not his excellent taste. And either his thoughts. It's 22 of those, what either. It's my far is why I see numbers like it's been really clubs and around for so long. Then this is the first time that oh God, it feels like he's settling. He'd flurried. He's something mature, although yes, sparking the team very early in Barcelona. Ronald Koeman, I think, thought that he was going to be the kind of. In fact, most people at Barcelona thought he was the best of this new generation of players. To make Rubens, he had actually phenomenal record in academy level. So much so actually that he had a phenomenal contract at academy level, because I think I was concerned that he would leave. And I think with hindsight now, there's maybe a belief that they accelerated that part of it a little bit quicker than they should have done. Right, it's on. Maiden. Rashford finds a high position and leaving him up. But he's calling it Barcelona though. He got a hand onto it again. And the goalkeeper, without this being his finest performance, you know the sport, so this second to second day, just before half time. Don't feel like Barcelona should be heading into the half time interval in the lead. Now, I think they've been clinical in front of goal. They've probably had more shots themselves, but it hasn't been really clear apart from that run of 3 chances in the same moves. But it's Rashford again. It's not Lamine he's going for, is it? He's going for Daddy Olmo, thinking Olmo in the penalty spot. It's actually a really good idea. Delights Murray that we've just been talking about so highly. I wouldn't be so harsh as to say that Elijah Moriba makes a mistake. I think he just tries to get his foot in and can't help but divert him. I think, though, that Bradley does make a mistake. I think a fuller hand on that, and he pushes that around the post. It's going to be pretty good for this season for Celta. If they've struggled to. He's finding someone with consistency, but today, the penalty's penalty. The other one goes for his legs. He can't do anything about it. Some 2 players stab this one. I'm sure that it won't be happy. The Minion Mask was a rare right-footed goal. And he was the good news, wasn't he, in the game? It version midweek and playing with us, and a little bit chaotic. He didn't want to be well, but he popped up there. I think there was a period in the second half when it sounds stupid, very much look. This is terrible, give it to me, I'll sort it out. And that's not always that helpful, actually, in truth, but I thought his performance was phenomenal. And so that was the optimism on what's otherwise pretty dark night. It's not actually been his best night so far tonight. We've seen, I think, more of Rashford than we'd seen of him. But he now has the third goal. Menguesa. So what's taking this? Yes. A ball source and Madness decides it's to a bat. They've double take their time with this attack. Marcos Alonso. Moriba. It's Hernandez. It was a cheap pass, but it was personally weighted. Out of the end. And of course, slides the shares near the near post. I'm not entirely sure name is trying to, I think he wanted one of the 2 attacking players to pull back for him, to offer him paths of different lines. So when it wait, he tried to replay. Something happened. And for so long a shot. He can get that. SkyBlues is out to Hernandez. It's this, but to get the free kick to pressure. It's one in the way. One more. To small time, and I'd give the other. And he says it's very Celta. Being gets that. Yes, Moriba. It's too much on that ball, you see. That it was bubbling forward. She's saying out little as 1 more minute at a time to the minimal goal. Stood tackles about it also. I think Borja bless this one of the penalty scorers was hoping that it might be a chance of one, but there's absolutely enough wrong. They've had to be anything. Borja Iglesias then whacks the chin of front of that also. Arsene which one has gone well. Some sort of self said Ukraine, but he lost 3-2. Still left Barcelona. See him listeners and on one race on the way on so fine. And one of James made for the second half hosting well the same, but absolutely no, I think it's summed up by the ball going up with the added time of thinking we'll have it, or maybe we're gonna have in these 45 minutes more of it. And I'm looking forward to it. And they showed us some film. We started the second half. Malay lost the score. Half time is 10-2. Or in the platitudes, that's why, you know, wish you weren't, that's we weren't. It's not that we don't care, it's never quite. We don't care, but we weren't playing every little effort for him, we weren't closing everyone down. I don't think he will feel this team has mostly done that tonight, but that's not to say by any means. They've been brilliant, Mike. They've had an intensity that was lacking in midweek. I think that's true. That's all still at slow on Cup Barcelona. And since like 50th gain in charge of that. So 6 wins. Right. That's all enough, James. It's a remarkable return. Such stands me once. Within showing us images of Manchester on the bench, really does not look well, does he? He's got you keep rounds around him, and it's just the look on his face. It's himself, he's not feeling good. I hate to use this word, and I promise that he was incredibly pasty. He looks like he's just been sick. He can with a blanket there and stuff, but he looks like he should be a home with them. I thought on Lucas side he did that and a bunch of grapes. And definitely his mum should be fighting the school and saying you don't have anything smarter than that. But you know, we were expecting, and Starr was in the official team sheet right at the very end. Summer said that in truth we didn't realise until the game was underway with the hit. Hang on a minute, that looks like Danny Olmo. I mean, that's another thing to analyse, I guess, is Olmo's role tonight. Well, I think he's been a bit intermittent again. I don't feel like he's been at the although it is true that when they're trying to play the ball around the edge of the area, you referred to it at one point as a bit like handball. You have to from side to side, waiting for that open hole to open up. Multiple trying to force that hole to open up, might track him defenders across, tracking him away again, tracking him across until there's a what you call it, people said, there's a hole still like a kind of a misalignment, if you like, of the bases, and you could play the pass through. I suppose it's been involved in that, but actually the bulk of what Barcelona have done, this stuff. Do you think there are one or two doubts about Rashford's fit within the high press game, within the protection of his fullback and so on? But his contribution makes me far greater than any of us thought. We know that Barcelona signed him because they flighted it on time. We also know that they signed it because a couple of other options didn't come off. One that they thought he would be a really useful backup. So any one of the front green positions, and that's his turned out. He's played 4 minutes than any of the other forwards because of injury to the medium Mal, to Robin Lewandowski, to Rafinha. Obviously, Ferran Torres has played a lot of minutes that wouldn't normally be expected to. He's been really, really important. And there's a question mark there, which is when everyone is fit, what happens to Rashford? Because and you some of his, particularly some of his quantifiable contribution is just to be playing. What he has done is the men's list is the basings. So very cautious in the box, which is fair to help rudiment free football, but he's put balls into the box and you've got man. I mean, this team shots both into the box with sometimes with the median notes. He doesn't happen as much as he would announce that. That's probably true. I must confess that I still find myself struggling to analyse Rashford fully. Because there are elements of his game that I think I'm not sure about the thing in this type of team. There's absolutely no arguing with the contribution. And you talk about that ball into the box. I think we saw that occasionally with Figure last year. We saw it occasionally with you're playing that sort of messy style as it comes inside and that's such an inside that jumps in behind. But of course, what's happening with Rashford is you're getting it from the other side more than I think you got where I think maybe in this running into the space behind. But more of that, taking people on, the ball across into the area. There's been a substitution at half-time, which is seeming to be also be down to an injury issue because stepping, yes, that's come on for EstadiOlimpicLluisCompanys. Keeps happening. Decent game. That's all that was stepping this. So another one of those academy products comes on in the second half. That's pretty extraordinary. You look at the Celta. First team squad, 14 of them are academy products, 12 of them are Galicians, some mystery to Spain, and I think that's a really big part of what you're seeing in the stands. Now, alright, football fans, fundamentally they want the players to be brilliant, and we'd all like Pelé to play first, right? We'd all like Messi or Ronaldo to play first, but it turns out the really good players are local and have been for the youth system and made it support itself when they were kids on. So that, I think, does create a heightened sense of identification. I think that does play into the atmosphere. And as you said earlier, I think Barcelona is one of the best places to go to plunge. It's worth noting, it's not obvious. Done that historically. We say that's happened at the be a place club. So yeah, fine, but feed that, and it's not something that's just happened between 1 year to another, and that's probably this been put into place for a long time. I think what's interesting about it is the product in terms of developing players. It's been in place for a long time, but it took someone, I think, to open that funding forth, and that's what LaLiga has done. And I think that was about a recalibration or a fixing, if you like, of a sense of an identity being lost. And I think that partly changed actually when the presidency changed, when Maria Mourinho took over from her father, and I think she was being very, very clear. I think she's incredibly impressive. She's been very, very excited about that being a central part of how she wanted Celta well, I was going to say to be fun, but I think there's a much more simple one to use. That central part of how she wanted Celta to be. That's where she wanted them to be, on their identity as Jones. For nothing for Rashford and Gisil, so that there's been the case since they down side 6 years ago. Them Andres Mendes, who won something else. Okay, maybe we'll still be there. Yes, yeah, I think that should. I mean, there've been a couple of pairs where they've. I think they tried to use the word Galicianization, and the signing, for example, the brief side of people like Dennis Suarez, I mean, it didn't quite work. But I think in the last few years it's worked because I think it's been a bit more organic. This has come from taking the players who below rather than looking around and going, okay, who's out there, who's from Dosia, let's bring them back. It's more, okay, because when you bring a player through who's young, you actually bring a talented player into the first team. You bring someone in with a kind of a dynamic and a momentum and yeah, it's a bit of a cliche to talk about hunger and desire, but I think those things are probably true with young players, or at least there's also a moldability from out. I think Fernando is a man who likes to mold his players in the way that he loves them to play. It's like in nächsten schon Armenien, at least. Das Disaster im Kampfverzahnt im Game. Wovor Schalteros gewinnt Smart ist so this is how shots. Connie then played it to Sermin. Turn signs the meet him out. Daniel. So you're asked about Barcelona's pause. This kind of thing we've seen a lot on, and that's because Barcelona will be stepping higher, win the ball higher, and sends himself to essentially build a couple of lines in front of the penalty area. And I think Sek will be reasonably pleased with that side of their game tonight. Yeah. There you go, see ya. But Nick. I mean, and by headed almost fourth. I mean, to play it back to Adelson. But get on. Set me back to it ages. It's gone down. It sends his way into the box. Exceeded by Sadio Rodriguez. It's been 2-3 minutes now. Celta not really finding a way out from big positions. At 8-7. Just turn away some Michael shot on top. I mean, Tony Gideon again. Well, so going from side to side. And the lead possession of that on way away from their own goal. Vinyama. Dion. To attend the space. Has to take down wide again. I mean, it's a very big. To keep the shots and someone like by more either. As a really good example of it, so pass on, lose the ball on the edge of the area. Celta look like they might be able to make the break, and I suppose if we could somehow take a high camera view of this, you would probably see a couple of players streaming into lots made behind what's ostensibly a very high line. But what happens? A nice Monibra is running the ball, three Barcelona players are onto him. That pass is never made. Now, if you don't do that pressure and that pass is made, we'll be going, look at the back ball, look how high they are. But of course, part of the reason why the back four survives then is because you're high enough that everyone can then go and put that pressure on. It's not, I suppose at heart what I'd say is that it's not always quite as clear cut as it sometimes appears to be. Although the eye test often says to us, wow, look at that, it's so clear cut, you've got to do something else, which is why you say that the side is Messi, Rafinha so much other than the goal. Is this under his highs because of that? I think he's absolutely vital in the way that they press. And I also think that I know this doesn't quite translate brilliantly in English. I think he's contagious. So I think when he actually does something, he has the force of personality and the lead by example kind of characteristics that means that others follow him. I don't know. I think that's an underrated quality. You know, that someone leads the press and people go with them. Gavi's another player who does helps. Gavi's been injured for a long time, but I think that thing that says, it's not just that I'm going, it says I go, you lot will be coming. It's it. So getting back soon, it's our senior. Seemed to take a little moment. We thought there was to take half in, that he might get back inside for the last go, and he didn't. And there's a couple of weeks since that now, we got into the international break. I suppose Boxing will be out, and the international break is an opportunity to do the final bit of the preparation for a full return. Yamal. Yoni. Dawson. Sounds possession in the second half. They're settled into a different type of as Rashford. Dion. Suns do this stuff straight to find this very long spell of possession. Sun the visitors. How's the start? Let's see. It's a 3 stories this all. And LiveMatch third challenge, and the second player taking me out and let me end it all this Dodan. Must admit from that angle I'm not sure where the contact is. There's no doubt that Eric Garcia goes to ground and he, at the very least, provides the possibility of a foul. That angle's not entirely conducive, I don't think. It's only live in the much very clear sound, and I think on that replay probably understand why Eric Garcia was the king. There wasn't that much in it, is it? That's so total. Yeah, oh, you know. Of St. Louis, yes. Looks what? That's it, right? So is space. Walsh-Otello. Slowing down the attack, so that it's quite effective. We'll set it up. Like Smodiva. And also the master players, but I've already with them, with the exception of the Minimal and Lewandowski. They were all back here. Vicinity of that Celta attack, really fast. What's it? Barcelona once he played the first pass, it was really good. And now ring on this abroad. No, this is a nice play. It could be, which we need to look. Hey, other options. It's a ball. It's really well. Claims the player at the end. I just had the same response. Just a little bit too low. It says that Ranji Dela. Choice that sense. With his sideline, a door is absolutely open. And on that occasion, I think a little softer that Mars, and I think French would play. Poppy would have gone in. It's a challenge to high. Now also. Yoni. Don't be nervous. What happens? Snapping at his heels, but he holding the ball. And actually, it's the way the game's gone on. It's increased the on his own, hasn't it? With jealous, so he don't be out of it. Is it like a turn two heights midfield, so one deeper and two in front, almost like a more traditional 4-3-3. They GCS many other options who's like you can see about Blaugrana. Timing is from Team FullMatch. It'll be too early. I think you might be right. I thought he played it. Maybe not though. I step slag up, but whilst the movement slowed, and that's my put slag up. That boy seems to be sort of few there. So the electric doing it for yourself. Yes, absolutely. I'll be good and. Push up, Lisa. Sasha of Diggins. They lost. So, by the way, you need the pass was obvious. And it was obvious enough that both realized you which one it was stood right inside the man running through. And you can see, you just couldn't see the way to get the bung through in. So much so that when he ended up making the different passes left hand side, he put his hand up as if to say, I know, I saw you, I just couldn't get into you. But it is a really interesting shade. There's somebody in the years enjoyed this is sort of that I knew about. The conversation against us of civil period and somebody's scenes. That's a big person. Can't so much need to play against this kind of high on that Barcelona watch and full two things that Barcelona can do that technical cause Barcelona could cause Barcelona problems. One is he's actually fighting into the space behind him is incredibly quick, and the other actually is to come and receive and then run. So he doesn't necessarily need to run beyond and go out the sides. Well, say he's had two of his, I would say kind of. And iconic is a bit of an overblown word for it. But from his point of view, two of the games that stick in the mind with him. The game against Osasuna, where he leads them in beat to Barcelona. But actually the game where he first really got noticed in the first division was with Granada very early in the season 2 years ago. And he was absolutely phenomenal. He put him with Granada in promotion from the second division, but really and truly in truth, it's Spain. That hasn't been noticed. He comes to first division. That would have been against Barcelona. We 9 or 10, mate. He was brilliant for the other season. I think maybe even earlier, maybe still have been in September. And almost immediately he got the move to Bayern Munich. Now, I'll be honest with you, I think a lot of people thought, and I'm going to include myself, that the Bayern Munich was a deal that was never really going to work. Wrong player in the wrong place, wrong environment, just not the right place for him. But talent, he's got lots and lots of it. But Smishu, he's very intermittent, they said, yes. Which absence has. So, Willing to be kind of biggest thing in turning on your certain days. Then there he got Spain call up very, very quickly, and I think it was just that same night that was the era. They're not going to mess against Barcelona. He had a brilliant game, and he wasn't in the Spain squad. And someone boomed out that night. That was a Sunday night, and the Monday morning he was at Flash offense with his Spanish Hassington. He there, he on the door jet. He calls it now. I can't remember what the term was. Some of the blame was. He did where like absolutely 23 bars right all night. It was like watching, suddenly a kid turns up on the playground who's unbelievably skillful. No one knows anything about him, so no one takes it very seriously. And then before they know where they're 5-0 down, because it wasn't 5. But this kid is just running around. There's something very refreshingly 90s about it. Was everything about everybody that comes onto the field of play, and it was a bit like, who is this stuff here? Middle was stop, slow down. Or that signed it. Enough space is more frustrated as well. Think Jesus loses out too, and I'll find the bats of the heavyweights. Let me in him out. Sounds spent down inside the box. Now the move continues. Bashford into spread it flat also. Hey, to Lamine and facing. Spoilers his whistle. My entire sure why the referee blows his whistle when he does. Because if that's a foul, you see and you did it. If you hadn't seen it as a foul, why do you then give it? Unless, of course, you've had a word in your ear from a false official or something this on the adverts there, but probably never nasty. I don't think that's anything more but players trying to justify. I don't think. But I think if that's a foul, you give it straight away, don't you? another 3-point there, and again, ball playlistas comes to receive the ball. He tried to build the attack off him. One of that also is right behind him and has followed him almost all the way into his, well into his own arse. And of course there, if you don't make that challenge and he turns you, then things open up. And so, Taylor and Alf has always played very well in your defence. Sometimes left him muggy, but instead he has got the physicality as being what's taking this lesson. Fine, tussle. So this recovery, but not still to play. It's Lily's going to be, and that's going to continue in this game. This is once the header. Some contents under the back of the hook. It never lays, let's seem to yawn away there. I must announce, a little bit surprised you can get a yellow card to that. But it's as clear and I think that is obviously deliberate that. And he then gets Frankie de Jong's hand in his face, but pretty and surely, yeah, he can't compare. The prediction was a clash of heads, which to be honest has more like Lasudas since notes. Hello, Todd. We'll see this hits him on, but you know, Stimson, I see so far. Some flat time saying you're so unhappy about. Made low down in the middle of the pitch when he fired. Lost shot there was now. Maybe it was Balfour, I can't remember now. They looked like it was a bike on and came flying through. Still on. Just hold off the challenge. So I mean, and starts out. That is a chip play. First, Sting start. Xavi Rodriguez did start at the grab was trying to make the again as they're out. They're just talking about the arrival from the second night is the one that's going to get through the defence off the guy that's way out on the shoulder. It's a touch from Lamine Dion, and they're trying to open him back. One more. Punched. Something else to Manos Hernandez. It's useful. So it's they don't step this. Tell you that. That's specific. So run, get in behind the UFC. And it was about UFC choosing which moment to let him go, wasn't it? They were much to avoid, but then he reached one up, stop it, let him go. He's starting to play the playground goal hanging. Sides up. D. It's played also to fight. Muy bien, also. Or is that 20 minutes? My goals. Need money back. I shots to one at the inside defence. Shoots them wayward. Who lands in what safe is, yes. Quite connects with the city. Lash Moriba. Bunde. He total rash to slow things down. Suddenly, it's me give what's us. Just that you got that boys get out of main band thing. De Jong, space saw Delon, that he don't know. To De Jong. Anki De Jong, it's momentum. What's 11 Dostig to the T. That's what I mean. So they had traits, and then he had his players on the face. Sorry, stats will also around that he's doing with the A1 space. I think there's a couple of reasons for him. That he's essentially making him be the starter in European football. And it's partly about having two different things in European football and LaLiga. But you might sort of think, well, why is the priority for the European football rather than LaLiga? I think it's actually about giving him a flat the rules, and I think back in Europe. The excitement of European football, I think in truth, it's about 11 as well. I think it's about having a sell team in LaLiga and being prepared to shake it up a little bit in Europe. I mean, in league games, but he won't consistently get these kind of minutes, 25, maybe 30 a game, because he's at my final pass. He's brilliant pass. I don't think there's anyone in the Celta team apart from investing in Mingueza who's not just got us out who can play that full frame. It's tremendously successful against Barcelona over the years. Stuff has, yeah. When comes on this corner, will be taken by the visitors. Big Marcus Rashford. And 2-all. Shunter spots dying off Sotelo. Celta do need to find something, don't they, a little bit different, because it's not just the fact that we've had 20 minutes or so without Albans. That feeling that the game has shifted into a territory, not necessarily a type of game, but a territory. In which Celta struggling to find a way out, in which Barcelona are pressing them very, very high, in which Barcelona are not brilliant on them to release that mask, would release a player and space behind them. And then I think that part of the second half performance for Barcelona, I'm pretty pleased how they play. And I think we need to find a way of getting beyond that pressure, finding a way to the pitch to open up a little bit for us to be able to play that pass. Still substitution isn't already. Wait, see. Might have the most appearances and most dons. The Gishfield Celta. Awesome. It's Chesney. Bounce. And that's almost out. Dawson to latch onto it. So those two misses now are 4 into Barcelona every time. Those not the rich big long terrace, it's a 7-yard one, but the big deep 25 yard passes of who and tough by Barcelona players. It's picked up by Frankie de Jong. I mean, but this one though is sparing, yeah. Let me say, but that's impossible. It's on a decision, and it has to go into the last fast. Johnson so afraid this serves. Honest in this, I don't know, I'm surprised. Not necessarily by the departure of Wilfred Iglesias, who I think, every game takes a lot. It's single does a huge name, but the idea of having Aspas at the very, very top of the pitch, rather than this person releasing the Blazers above his name, may well be that he plays slightly false number 9 roles, so he comes a little bit deeper, he turns, and then tries to release the two white guys who will be running in from there. So I think he might not be at the very, very top. I'm a little surprised if not playing behind the runner. So I mean, Young. Ja. Und bleibt es aber so Delo. Und himself was certainly on one. that. It's not well, it's not as part of their assistance practically on as well. It's not just their job, it's Barcelona. It's so often him. I can read it on Lamine. In more and more into the game. Yeah, beat by that kind of an idea about the eye test. The eye test is the huge friend de Jong, so just checking that. And most touches in a game so far, Frank de Jong have gone really quite a long way. 107 touches. The next highest is 86 and 81, then 80. They're all Barca players, quite surprised it's unfair. But they should Arnold attempts in Seagold, attempts a deflection, it wouldn't be a corner. So coming up to the half-hour mark of the second half, and lifting up my notes and bugging my brain and I can't think of a Celta chance in the second half. And I think I don't know why, because Barcelona have been so flat-footed, haven't allowed them to really run at them. In a couple of moments when they might have passed by them to, they haven't quite been able to do so. So, corner, the header of the new horse has gone in, and it's Robert Lewandowski. Hat-trick for him. Scored the penalty, a volley, and now the header. Oh, the first time finishes some Lewandowski. It's devastatingly clinical in its fate to Barca.
What was it you were saying earlier about some of the crosses? This on it hits, and that was exactly what we just had with
Marcus Rashford and Robert Lewandowski. I would say Rashford too is up on assists charts. It's like Lewandowski got 7 goals this season in LaLiga. It's a good guy. It took Smith. Just be nothing to suggest really see the B side in, and he did it at the near post. Yeah, I think in a million years it's going to go in at time. I just saw him at Lewandowski, but that's a placement from him. Yeah, I'd agree with you as well that it's deliberate. I think it's very easy to look at that. I think it's a corner that's come in, and someone's just tried to pick it off, and they said they'd going in the fight most by chance. I don't think that's the coach from Lewandowski. That happens to another player out there, and I might be inclined to believe his chance, but with his Lewandowski, I'm inclined not to believe his chance. It's not 4-2. So it's having this game of it, breathing space to your Barca and make it sides. So challenge spawn StadioLimpicLluisCompanys. Big boring signs being yet. And so sounds out of the stuff is served out of grip. Held on his feet. Charge starts that, whereas Starfelt does two things. He drops the ball with, and then as he carries through, he passes almost. There is also moving forward, so something that's fun. If I'm that thick at this point, I wouldn't be taking the slightest risk at all. 2 goals up, 20 minutes to go. Admittedly, when it's a clash, it tends to be something like 2 or 3 minutes time. It's hard. So that's certainly you would want to take it. Probably the one with sour nerves. That'd be too harsh a term. That one technical see this game him swinging past and look who you head to this suture where he'd bid slight. It's concerned with the performances that maybe I suppose the nature of the game in the second half, I think means we've seen more of him because they've been closer to the Celta penalty area, but since they squeezed into the entire space around that area, and I thought the first half he was much less involved. Like the second half, Sims spinning on and didn't Bento. And Nelson feels like almost become more involved, have off the ball of so much since Serbian now. It's also assuming we sit into our first sits the inviting sauce is difficult once the battle. sleep, assist to the ball. And in part that's in the nature of Federer is that we were talking earlier about how he's a player who's maybe it's academic, there's some of the other Barcelona players, that the movement of the ball in tight spaces is not really his thing, but the ability to read where it's going to drop and to arrive, to be in the place, like where the game's a big stretch, he's the better player and the game to be tighter, which it had been a second half on with chaos. So exactly. I think that's exactly it. Whereas I think Olmo's greatest strength, in my opinion, is the ability to keep control and possession when he's under a lot of pressure. When there isn't a lot of Renat's about to felt for them asking the might only be a 5-6 meter pass net for and B is to be simple. But he's very, very good at judging Brighton. And two substitutions being lined up by CeltaVigo ViscaBarca. He did 3-16 lost sight of the ball and ended up on it. I'll see it still played. Yeah, man, he scored that late goal against Neno. He took out. This was a spin like game from the wing. Not said that on his thoughts. Was long what happened with it. I smell sometimes if it was everything well and so it's chest. I would. Yes, the bear. Duncher up at 0 at the back. Possibly leaving just the 2 central ends rather than 3 of them. Something like that. Perhaps no action. Starts, I think, Chemos. Some of the Chemos, I mean, it was minutes. Yeah, Steeds and in descent. On his shirt, Frank de Jong. Plus, not so much doubt, there's a 4 on some Frank de Jong. This referee to top Tazi. I feel that. This, you know, you tell what de Jong to job on God. Spaps. Wave ahead also. Seems is out. And Celta. So not some him since he's come on. Spence to Dinkid. To pass of the say that goes out on so that was some toss and to the other side now till Howard Spent come out to play. And Salsa behind by Eddie. It's like my opinion one choice that's and off that time go back. So it's in a cross. It's Lewandowski. It's sending him almost by Tarina. Time of this still in the game. Charming, you can hear the famous story about this. Is something here is Pisa Law, which is as Charles host fan and say when a player's been taken down, he don't feel too much impact for the essentially means go and tread on him. You know what? He's on the floor, tread on him. There's a very good. You know what? Now to my same Cameron, but movies. There's a famous one. I think it's a referees appalled had picked up on this, and he thought, "Oh, well, the fans nice. They're chanting peace and love, peace and love." In a European game, kind of referee that, and look at the fan that shot at peace and love. I think it was a referee, or maybe it was a foreign journalist. Wow, that stands there nothing. Peace and love, peace and love. What are those?
Concerns. I said anything nice. So. Corner, so see that. The baby expecting to in the last 10 minutes of the game. I've got a chance of getting something. Now 4-2 down. Definitely down. So aims to challenge. Stops for Celta from going in behind. So was the semi-final of the Cup Winners' Cup between Real Sociedad and Chelsea in 1995, and they were chanting "Peace and love, peace and love." And being a little bit of confrontation in the stands, and they said they did. Peace and love, peace and love, and everybody calmed down after that. Yeah, that's in a do print. That's why translators exist. Quite set surfer in that final bounce. That's what we did there. And speaking of, just the jit about him, but yeah, they see it from that angle out, but now it's really as possible East idea on the height thing, being Lewandowski and trying to score. Dion. Shut in the back. Oh, I bundled it in. It's barely just the ball to Frankie Dion. Yeah, I think he's played very, very well indeed. I was about to say, Sam, I think his reaction after you suggest that. Had I said I would be wrong and now stupid enough to admit, but I was going to say that Dion was quite happy to have that foul, to slow the thing down and to get the ball and put it back down to down. And given that he's then hurting from it, maybe a little less happy. Ken's done well. Horny's wonder. That shift thing up and out to also. Really nice, lost the ball. And he's in play, Sen also. Aspas. Did straight it. Danny Olmo. So he said that you bought Fekiri on the card, we lost the ball. 111 attempted passes tonight so far. 108 of them successful. It's pretty impressive. Oh, it's funny. And don't really get the point to use him. I mean, everything this, I'm reading through the lines in this, but I feel like Slick wishes he was fit more often. I feel like if Slick felt that he could play 20 games in a row, I think he probably would play as a start, certainly in the back form. Played to the Celta come on for Plantelis. Injury issues over the years, Alessandro about it. That's a mess. No, to Lowy. Sad Maladin, please. It's one back by Seda. And Star Sellers. Who's sitting? It's just Victor. Yeah, to get going. He stopped 2 winners, some 2. Let's do it. This was the hill until that's good. Lost a precedence in way Florida. This was the referee feels that it was taking his time. Or was trying to go on the mix it up and void, and maybe something was said. All his way on. Myers using up the 2 winners through is the way of trying to slow the game. Now they get him see out the one on a few minutes. Blood pressure this again later raining really this last contribution. there were someone on the Celta bench there, didn't they? Super suits they coming to peeling down Third. And where it starts Saban Torres. We saw this is the minimal zone. It made it side and he struck the post. And so, heavy challenge on it. Smoliva. Leah. Like Charles Law. Lewandowski. And in the end, obviously, it's the minimal that has the chance. But the last person you want to be in the Slavic control the ball with, a loose control the ball is when you've got that minute of it on your back. That's just, to be honest, that invites trouble. To turn your back on it, as partly tiredness, to turn your back on it, I think you can set the ball with certainly behind you. There have been a few people, I mean, through my so on so today, there have been killing the sea balls inside his own area. There's a handball mob distinguish, and let's be quick bass, not be business. Dean High his side, and that's the incident there. Here's Christensen. That's there. There's. Oh, well, he's certainly been. There's a piece of love again from the fans. Oh, surely yellow card. Could be anywhere. Tangible evidence. Oh, it's on take down at blood. This is Mouse. I think a very place suggesting someone. He's for a man throwing Christensen off to get free rather than it being an assault, if you see what I mean. But when you talk about this in a place like that, to be honest, you take quite a risk. And just a stone set the call time yellow essentially. And yes, it's Christensen. Yes, it's not. He's something happened. Yeah, you think it's not a couple of players that you would expect to sort of spare up to each other to wind each other up. It's Christensen who's already just come on investment. Yeah, the chance to be kind of HE, and he's like basically. De Garcia. One salt. Smoliva. El Abdelawi. And down the flag. Xavi Rodriguez. It's 9 to beat FC, and he did 6 again. It's frustrating, isn't it, for the Celtics fans? Because after time in the NFL, it's just okay. To me, even if they had a bed sheet last minute to be a joy, and I think. It's not just they've been 4-2 about that sense of impetus that they've not been able to create very much. They've not been able to make Barcelona struggle in the way they did in the first half. They've not been able to open up spaces and cause some real problems. Surely different. That led to the prospect of a more exciting second half. But that's it. That's how they happened. Exactly that. I think a half time until this is going to be. However it ends, because it could end up being anything. It's going to be a live fun. And really, truly, it has been, and I think that's to Barcelona's credit. I think Thursday's been fun to me. I don't think it'd be much fun for the Celta. I think Barcelona have managed the game really well. I think they told the game, but it's fair to say at least 6 minutes haven't gone out as well, or VU as they did. No, it's a bit after 45 minutes. I wanted another 60 after 90 minutes. This 6 film okay, that's about right, and we can see this out now. But it's been a brilliantly enjoyable game. And Sambi, it's the pocket to Sudes Moriva. Tion. And I think that Fred did the job and wasn't amongst the candidates no matter the match. Where the candidates moved to what average just a little bit earlier rather than in this half. I think his performance to be very, very leads. Actually, in the first half, there's two moments where he felt like he was getting caught out. But I think in the second half, when it's been about imposed control, he's been at the heart of that thing of every time the ball comes to us, we pick it up. Every time they get position, we don't allow them to pass. Every time we get position, you choose the right pass, the right play pace, the right tempo. I think Frederick Young's had a very, very good game indeed. Well, the tempo has slowed down, and the chaos has been diminished too, in great part because Frank Adil has decided how to the chaos. Right. David Garcia. Spaps. Spot. Sad man. I think it's through the line. Set up to Maui. It's decent up in the air. David Garcia. Turn around. Stop. That's it. It's big boy towards Lewandowski. Have a good pass where he's wide. That Paul Mossy. That's what the beater pass him because Lewandowski. That's what we didn't anticipate that Varane would be able to get it in. But Stunes did. Get him flat. Nice. What are you at? That's Max. Stevens went down and all that. Not impressed. Dosky. But didn't chill the thing that ball out. Is a part of the deal. I think it's a second. So I'll miss the next nine. It's indeed. So let's send Selna De Jong is team. It's night on. That's his red card. Next fixture for Barca, if I'm not mistaken, does have Celta Vigo in LaLiga. Yeah, which is the ones they hope to be back at Camp Nou. And De Jong treads on Asmus's foot. I don't think there's any incentive that. I've still don't level sorry to players when it's that kind of challenge. The brain injury is not done very much more than goes to the ball, which of course doesn't mean it hurts any less. Doesn't mean that Atbat does die, because that does hurt. But I kind of feel like it's a sandy heavy punish, even for a pro relative might have fine. That's a man, but he's already on a yellow card. I mean, yeah, chart for the sake of a yellow card small. Yeah, like because a player is already on the book, you no one can keep on it, get a job. I might sometimes simply something bit extra to be sent on. Yeah, and I think actually referees do sort of subconsciously kind of implicitly applied, and then the second yellow card has to be more expensive. Yeah, first. So I mean, somehow signs Saban Lloyd admitted of sell. Saw and Leach beat final whistle. Still on that. Signing hell attack. Said that Horner stood up Lamine Yamal's performance this evening and where he is on that sense. Well, I think that the first part of the answer to that is for the 95th minute he's down there. And I think that in itself just didn't also tips. Because I think there were opportunities to take from also at man. Barca beaten 4-2 for what, maybe 15 minutes now. So I think there was a chance to do that. I think there have been moments where Barcelona the personality and he tried to provide it. I think he's been certainly heavily involved in the game in terms of how often he's been in contact with the ball. And I think that's quite important. That's make you need to be that cutting edge. A little bit of Dallison. Comes off just as I say that, and somebody brought you to what's your chance, sir? You had a touch of the ball in this game, but I suppose it's a step you might pass. And he's had a lot off the ball, so has always led to things. But he's been an outlet a lot of the time. He's kept the ball well. He's been involved and also like that first half. It's curious because the first half the more decisive passes were coming from Rashford, but Lamine was in the game more. Which isn't necessarily inside a concert, simply because different balls, different spaces, and so on. But I think Paul would be a pretty positive performance for Barcelona. The worry for them, of course, from reading how the Saturday's made. That was Venice Messi. All goes to the national team, and I think why? There's a bit of a species between Hansen Slichter and Luis de la Fuente. The referee blows the final whistle in the end.
it was slightly more comfortable than we would have anticipated at half time, and that is the best the possibly Sahai's like round is, man, and the weekend all around. So Barcelona round improving 2 points, a little bit close to them at the top of the table. An encouraging second half. I think you could see in the reaction of the players are full time, I think, as well. There's a handful of other things that miss it. One of the problem Lewandowski for a player who's been injured, and you might think will come back a little bit doubtfully, a little bit slow. Not that decisive. Has been absolutely decisive. I think he's played well beyond the goals. And it's I thought Barcelona created quite a lot actually at half time. The short stats were very much in Barcelona. So they begin the chaos.
Yes, it's not else when something else where they wasn't happening. They were the best side. They prevented a couple of players you would expect to stare up to each other to wind each other up. Chris Sennety's only just come on. Investment age in the first half. The chance to be kind of 18 and that means the table on a weekend where a lot of people were thinking Barcelona should it's not a big swings behind round Garcia to play it one Garcia can never predict anything in LaLiga, whereas for Celta still waiting for a third win. It's 13, so almost 13 points. Just worry about the play. None of those teams it's not to beat FC, beat 6 again. It's frustrating, isn't it, the Celtics fan was half time them in a felt it's just okay to me. Even if they had eventually lost them in to be a joy, and I think it's not just they've been 4-2 about that sense of impetus that they've not been able to